Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mystic Monday. Kim, before we get going, you want to go over some market updates?
Sure thing. So Bitcoin is down slightly, about 0.25% over 24 hours, but still up almost 9% over 7 days. It's sitting at a pretty spot considering how things have been the last few months. It's over 22,000. It's sitting at $22,715, which, I mean, it was a week ago. We were still like 17.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to hang on to the 17 mark. So 22 is pretty great. Ethereum is down 2.5% over 24 hours, up 3.5% over 7 days, hanging out at $1,605. Our biggest mover in the top 100 is the BTSE token. I don't know if there's a fun way to say that. Bitsy. It's the Bitsy token. It's the 93 largest coin by market cap. It's up almost 23% over 24 hours and about the same over 7 days. It's sitting at $2.75. I don't know that this shows any indication of steady growth. It looks like something made it jump and that's all it's doing.
It looked pretty flat when I looked at it.
Yeah. So the BTSE token, the Bitsy token, is a token for an exchange. It's the first exchange token running on Liquid, a Bitcoin sidechain-based settlement network for traders and exchanges. This gives BTSE inherent benefits.
Yeah. From looking at it, it seemed very similar to like the Binance, like BNB coin, the Chronos token. Like it's just an exchange-based token. So there we go.
Makes sense. So like always, we were having this conversation before we started recording, and we decided it would be a decent topic for today. And it has to do with growth and maturity.
Yes. Yeah. So we were talking about this in the beginning of just the conversation really started around the topic of practice. Like, are you willing to put into practice and actually try some of these concepts, whether or not it's trading, whether or not it's a mystical concept? Do you implement them into your life, or do you just gain the knowledge of that's practically how you do it? And it was a conversation we were having about it started with some mystical concepts. Like, I mean, we can just take an easy one and just talk about meditation. It's like, okay, you learn meditation or engaging or like whatever you want to call it. You learn these tools, but do you actually implement them into a practice of your life where daily or at least weekly you're practicing it? And the big answer for a lot of people is no, they don't. I grew up going to conferences and churches and learning about all these things and thinking, oh, that's a great thing. I wonder when it'll happen in my life, but not actually like doing the work of practicing it and having it be part of my life. And I think that's a big thing. And one of the things I told Kim was grace culture in churches is wonderful. Like, it's been super helpful for so many people, but it has limited people's desire to practice because it should just be grace. It should just happen. And I think salvation comes through grace. Like, it's nothing you earned, nothing you did, just happens by you choosing. But maturity especially maturity in, I would say, your body and your soul requires some practice.
Hmm. I would agree. I mean, I think if we look at, I can only look at the Western church because that's what I'm familiar with. And even that is slightly familiar because I didn't really grow up in the culture. However, um, the Western church has this whole thing about a church service. And
Mm,
I think we've done a disservice to the body of Christ by setting up this Sunday service for people to come, receive, and leave. And they come, they get served, and then they go about their daily lives. But there's
mhm,
no expectation for them to go out and actually implement these things. So they come and they learn a concept, and it's an idea, and they may mull over it, but do they ever actually take any action on it?
mhm,
And I think this is really the root of what we're talking about today. And it has to do with, I mean, I'll just be real blunt. Like, people sit around and they wonder why they're not maturing. They've not been given more authority. Um, they don't have more responsibility spiritually, or they're not allowed to do certain things. And a lot of it has to do with maturity. Like,
mhm,
have you actually taken the time to take the concepts you get and implement them and make them a practice, so
mhm,
that you can start maturing and learning how to do things and operate the way that the Father's showing you how to operate? Or are you taking it and going, oh, well, that's fun. God, do that for me. Are you
mhm,
still asking him to do everything, or are you actually willing to take some sort of step in functioning with him as opposed to having him functioning for you?
mhm. Yeah. And so I have a friend of mine who a while back was engaging with God, and he showed him um, something that was coming against him in his life. And my friend was like, "Oh yeah, like let's go take care of that." And God was like, "No, you're not ready." And my friend was like, "What do you mean I'm not ready? Like you're God." He's like, "No, you're not ready." And so he started to show him that, like, how can you expect to have governance and authority over different areas in your life if you can't take care of your house? If your house isn't clean, if your dishes aren't washed, if your bed's not made, if you like, what's your body like? Have you exercised? Have you eaten right? Like, have you moved today? Have you touched grass? Like, I think that's a really interesting concept, but it's something. Touch grass is something you will see on the internet quite a bit in some circles, because there's a lot of people who will spend their entire day inside and never go outside. You work from home, you work on a computer, you eat your meals, you sit on your couch, you never actually even go out and interact with nature. You don't do anything. And that's so touching grass has become this metric of, oh, did you self care today? And it's like such a simple thing. But that's where it starts, is by governing your body, governing your home. And we can't expect God to give us more authority over our neighborhoods and our cities and our states and countries and globe and cosmos if we're not managing this stuff. Because this, I would argue, this is our training ground. Like, this is the place he gave us to practice the concepts, to outwork the concepts, where we don't really have an adversary except ourselves, to practice this stuff. And often we still lose that battle.
That's true. This, it just makes me want to go back to oneness a little bit. So I think a lot of times when we just take a concept and we stick with that,
Mm,
it still keeps ourself a bit divided because we don't actually include our body to outwork those concepts. So we may be
mm,
mulling it over in our soul. So mind, will, and emotions, right? We're chewing on it, we're thinking about it, we're trying to figure it out. And even your spirit can well, should be participating with that as well. You know what I mean? But if you don't actually take the step to go outwork it and practice it, then you're leaving your body out, which then creates this divided system within yourself. And if you've listened to us at all, oneness is one of those songs that we have to sing, right? I believe so much in the kingdom flourishes, I would say, with unity and oneness. So unity and oneness within yourself, unity and oneness within the body, unity and oneness between you and the Lord, right? And when you can start functioning as one, then that's when you can start actually maturing and going forward with things. And this is just as simple as including your body in what it is you're trying to learn. You think about, I grew up playing softball, so I'm going to use this as an example. Had I just sat on the sidelines and watched everyone practicing, swinging a bat, throwing the ball, catching the ball, pitching the ball, I could learn a lot of things about this game. But if I never actually went out and got into the batter's box, chances of me being able to hit a ball with any kind of effectiveness,
right,
would be very, very slim. If I don't include my body in that training, then I have all the ideas and it's great. I could be a great commentator, but am I actually playing the game? I'm not. And so I'm not actually advancing in this skill. You know what I mean? And I just think that we've gotten to this point in the church, like people are waking up. We've talked about that. We talked about this last week, right? People are waking up to these concepts, waking up to hear the Father's voice. But if you are only waking up and you're not actually doing anything with what he's telling you, you're not going to be maturing. And if you're not maturing, then how is the kingdom being built without you? You know what I mean? And I don't mean to be harsh or mean. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying grow up. Like just realize if he's drawing you into this, put your whole self into it. And even if it's baby steps, because you know what? We all start with baby steps.
Yeah.
We all start with crying.
Great.
Yeah, we all start with crying for milk. Like everybody starts there, but at some point, hopefully you get a little further past that. And it's okay if it's step by step. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's still advancement. It's still forward motion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my encouragement would just be do something. Like do something, anything. And, that's we've talked about this before with trading and Bitcoin and like, have you bought Bitcoin? Have you read anything about Bitcoin? Have you read the white paper? Do you know anything about it? Like, other than just the name and the price, because we talk about it at the beginning of each episode. Like, what have you participated in? What have you practiced? Have you completed a purchase? Have you sold something? If you trade normal stocks, like, have you looked at any metrics? Have you tried different options? Have you, whatever it is, like you can make it as mystical as you want to, like, are you engaging the seven spirits of Yahweh? Or you can make it as simple as, did you make your bed this morning? Did you go for a walk? Did you practice this tool in trading? Did you read a book? Have you, these simple things. And something that's interesting is it really makes me think of this program called 75 Hard, which I have mixed feelings about personally. But what is that program doing? It's teaching you a practice. It is teaching you willpower to do something that's important to you, whether or not you want to or not, and at the cost of anything else. And sometimes that's beneficial, sometimes that's hurtful, but depending on how it works. But that program teaches you to practice something. And I think those things are great because people need to learn to practice something, even just one thing. And speaking from personal experience, something I have found is I've taken several courses on trading, and you get a little overwhelmed because it's like, oh, I could do credit spreads and debit spreads, or I can do puts and calls, and I can do all these different options. And it's like, what do I do? And you just need to pick one. Just pick something
Just do something.
and do it, and work until you're excellent at that. If you
Mhm.
want to start engaging heaven, start meditating. Start asking Father to show you things. Start learning the difference between your imagination in flights of fancy where you're just going off and daydreaming and divine inspiration. Because there is a difference, but it's the same muscle that God uses to communicate with you.
Hmm,
But you have to practice in order to tell the difference.
I like that. We said this a little bit before we recorded, but I feel like I want to say it again. I think one of the ways that we've been brought up, at least in Protestant Christianity in the Western Church, it has almost been you're like almost a little taboo and on the outskirts if you practice your faith.
Mm,
Like everything has been around going and learning and reading and absorbing, but not actually practicing. And honestly, this is what has caused a lot of the divide between the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church.
mhm,
Like, man, the church loves to hate the church for practicing. And it's the craziest thing because it's all we see. Like in the book that everybody studies, that's all you see is the practicing of someone's faith, like going out and outworking it, right? Jesus went and healed. He didn't like sit and think about healing. He went and did it,
right.
right? Like those things happened.
Mhm,
And then we just like learn about it and then keep it in our mind and don't ever outwork. I'm not saying
mhm,
everybody's going to be healing people or anything, but why do we have to put a taboo on practicing the things that he's leading us to? You know? And I think that's the first step. Like, can we just start practicing something? And like Josh said, it doesn't have to be the most complicated thing.
mhm,
There's a writing by a monk from I don't know what century, another century. His name was Brother Lawrence, and it's called Practicing the Presence of God.
mhm,
And he was a very simple man. He wasn't known for being crazy intelligent, but what he did is he wrote down what he did to practice being in the presence of God. And so even if you just start with practicing that, I mean, go find the book. There's a free ebook out there somewhere. Um, but I think wherever you're inspired with that, go with it. Obviously, he's leading you somewhere. He wants you involved, right? Even if you feel like, oh, he's turned his back on me or he doesn't show me anything, he's been very clear over all of the millennia that he's right there with you if you just turn back to him, right? And so
mm,
sometimes it might be practicing being still, and sometimes it might be practicing manifesting something. I don't know.
mhm,
But if you don't ever ask, you'll never find out. And if you
right.
don't ever find out, then you're not going to mature.
Mm,
And if you don't mature, we won't see the kingdom come, right? Not that it all
exactly.
falls on your shoulder, but it's important to have the whole body working how they're supposed to be working. Like
Mhm,
I don't want to miss my part and then have the elbow missing. Not that I'm even a big enough part to be an elbow. That's not what I'm saying. But like we want the
yeah,
full body. We want everybody in their special giftings, in how they're supposed to be functioning, operating in maturity, so that we really can see his will be done on earth.
that's right. If I could encourage anyone to do something, would just be to practice something. Start simple. Don't make it complicated. Don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna fast for 40 days," or "I'm gonna, trade options every single day for a year." Like, no, make it simple. Make it attainable. Make your goals attainable, and then build on that. So, what I would love is to hear in comments on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, email us. I would love to hear something you're practicing, some way practicing has helped change your life. And as Kim and I move into February and the coming months, we're going to be talking a lot more about practicing and what that looks like in our life in a practical way, and talking with guests who are implementing some of the stuff in a daily, weekly, monthly practice. And I think it's going to be great. But I want to hear from you guys, see what you're practicing, see what you want to practice, see how practice has helped you. And we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining today, guys. We'll see you on Thursday. Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.